worked on new
Fala
and tasty,
pessoal,
now
estamos aqui de novo
Soulstorm.
aqui,
I think my mic's a
trazendo
little
uma
loud, but,
nova live da onde você aqui.
you know, I do a little bit
E
of everything
vamos
as an EP.
comentar aqui
Normally I try
do
to stay high
pessoal
level,
aqui,
but yesterday I
dos
was in the
estúdios,
editing
né?
suite, you name it,
Tem o
it's
do
like
Pet
from one
Hobbit,
to the
do
next, technical
Five
art,
Studio
you know,
Interativo.
do it all. So
Perfect.
Temos do Campo Santo, Vale dos Gold, Jack Roller, tem o Wolf Anderson. Temos aqui bem técnicos. Cara, foda, velho. Vamos ver um pouquinho o que eles estão falando, né?
Cool, awesome, thank you. So, I think to get started, let's talk about graphics and art style, because I think that's the one thing that stands out to me for all of your titles, is you're all creating extremely beautiful, just fantastic art. What attracts you about Unity?
We're building a feature, or you were building something that wasn't even a game, but was more of a cinematic quality in nature. And when I look at each frame now that we produce, you know, Lauren's aesthetic for atmosphere and lighting, it's very moody, and it really pushes kind of, I think, what most engines could do today, but Unity just seems to handle it in stride. We don't really have any challenges artistically, right? We're always looking at how can we make the frame rate faster and things like that.
Cool. And Peter?
Well, we're going for something like fantastic realism, I guess, and we have a big challenge because all of our arenas or levels are user-made, and so we cannot bake using Enlighten, which would be cool, but we need to come up with our own solution.
Load of want to add features, and sort of when you start making a game, you have to develop the actual engine in parallel to the game, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because you're designing something, and you're building the caterpillar and the house at the same time, which is weird. And this, you know, Unity just allows
Ele
us
está falando pouco sobre o
start
negócio de
off
desenvolvimento, né, de
with
game, né,
that
sobre
blank
software,
slate, and then we can build tool sets on top of that. I think that's
a
one of the
experiência, né,
most,
que ele passou, né,
the strength
na hora de escolher
I think it's just how it's super easy to
opções dele,
expand
né?
on the engine.
So how big is your team right now?
We're actually
You're almost at the 10.
as soon
Vai
Wants
fazendo a gente
to
mais
build our characters, right? Who's,
aprofundado,
you
né?
know, we have a phenomenal engineering
E
team,
mais-
and
e
that
dá
never
aquele
hurts,
gás,
right?
né?
For any engine anywhere,
Para
to have a
os
world-class
desenvolvedores,
engineering team,
desenvolvedores,
but
né?
we sourced our entire engineering team
Seus
external as
trabalhos.
well, and our entire art production team is done external. And so internal, we're a very small, tight hub, you know, where Lauren will just say, I want to do 1 million things today. And I go, okay, well, you know, we'll figure it out. And the team, you know, I'm very proud of everyone, but it really starts with Unity, because we're all connected through that one hub, and with it, we've been able to achieve his vision to the point where recently, I think it was, you know, it was, for me as a producer, I love hearing these things, but Lauren said, I've never produced CG to this quality before in my career, right? And that dates back to Rhythm and Hues and all the work he's done, and, you know, for an engine to be want into it,
In our studio, but really helps me, I think.
Walk up to things and go, oh, hi, Mark. Oh, hi, Doggy, to like things in the world. Like, okay, I guess this sort of are like basic controls of that we think is going to be the center of the game. Worked with that, and I mean, it's really funny and garbage, but just like that was literally, we built our desk when we moved into our office, and then like the second day in our office, someone had that entire thing up and running, and we're like, okay, great, we can actually just. Well, we can't literally build off this. We have to throw this in the garbage right now. But like conceptually, it's very easy to. I find prototyping stuff really, really easy and fun in Unity.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd say we always start with just stay calm, right? The world's not going to end today, may end tomorrow, but you know, today we just need to gather all the information. And so on our team, we have just an interesting story. We have one technical artist. And when we recently started doing some cinematic work, we told him, okay, you know, you're a technical artist that handles a lot.
So just doing stuff yourself is super easy, right? And I'm an artist, programmer, game designer, and so I could do everything myself, and that sort of set the basis for it. You know, I love that style of development. My dream is to make my own, like completely alone. You know, one day I'll do it when I'm 60 or something. Yeah. So that sort of got me started into.
For us, I was going to say that it was familiarity, but then I realized that actually when we started our studio, I don't think anyone on our team had shipped a Unity game before, but it had enough things in common with it that everyone was able to pick it up very quickly. I mean, just to what you said about it being a blank slate was a very big...
Drive that passion.
I think for our team, I mean, that sort of goes up, you know, towards what he was saying. You know, we have like our sound designer is our level designer now, and our economics guy is programming too. So it's just a big mess of like multiple hats to juggle if you juggle hats.
Small team always does, yeah.
You know how to juggle hats, right? I think the visual scripting stuff would be very interesting. Not only for us, but I see it for sort of coming in as an artist, having that gateway, you know, because I love C#, and I wouldn't use much of the visual scripting myself, maybe for like AI structures or maybe like level progression stuff. Or like specific level design scripting things. But it would really open the end.
What are we going to do?
I've run big companies, so I would quit. That's my first move.
Fire yourself?
Yeah, so what would that be? There's so many things that for me, for my game, I would focus a lot on the streaming part. Streaming is something that could be better, and it's moving, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do that will enable a lot of artists to sort of get past the optimization, memory optimization, and just increase, you know, the detail and everything, and just do that. So I think that would be...
Everyone wants bigger levels and bigger content.
But it's also workflow-wise, you know. You don't need to think about the whole...
Postmortems. What went wrong?
I would say if you think a system is good enough and you have to focus on the next system, maybe think twice and look again, because maybe later it becomes harder to change.
Yeah, I would... everything goes wrong all the time.
Yeah.
So you got to learn how to sort of roll with the punches and just iterate, you know, just crawl back onto the candy mountain, basically, because that's what it is. We make games, so it's all fun. It's all actually fun. We're sort of spoiled, right? It's not real problems, you know. So just everything goes wrong. Yeah, basically.
If you're, I would say for us, at least on Firewatch, which was our first game as a team, the moment you know, do whatever you possibly can to start building your game on those as early as possible. Because there are things that won't, and there are things that will shockingly be weird on even a high-performance obvious advice, I guess. But it took us, we knew we were coming out on the PlayStation 4.
The personnel, like in the group, and it just becomes this passionate sort of project. And after a while, you have meetings about having meetings about problems with people in another meeting you were having. That's when you're sort of, what am I doing now? So yeah, just having control, creative control over things. And I think there's a lot of publishers also who realize this, sort of capitalize the fact that signing and owning everything from a developer is not smart. And that sort of talks to that, right? Just being in control of your own destiny.
And a lot of empty bank today. Well, that's going to be me. We need somebody to look at lighting. Well, that may be Lauren or myself. There's something wrong with rigging, and there's too many joints, and we have performance issues, right? Well, let me sit down and look at your profile and try and work with you on those things. And so I enjoy, because I was able to go wide in big studios, I enjoy in a small dev environment that I can go deep on each issue and really kind of internalize and help spread that knowledge to the team.
Well, I was not in a AAA studio before, but about doing your own thing, you can have an idea, and if the idea pushes you, it's really great, especially if you get a team and you share the responsibility, and it's freedom, and freedom is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the speed at which you can get your team on, like, to get creative consensus and to get momentum on your team is the thing that I like the most. I mean, my favorite size of like a team that I'm working with is one that I can see like in a sweep with my eyes without having to move. And whether that's like a screen full of webcams from a bunch of remote people, like if they get so small that you can't see them, it's probably a bad sign. Or
Das situações que a gente passar, né? Puxando pro lado dele também da situação que ele viveu, né? Das coisas.
So what started your career? What made you a game maker?
For me, it's a game called Another World, old Amiga game. I played it back to back, and then I hit, the credit screen, and it's one guy, like, and a musician also on top of that. But this one guy, he made like the tools and the art and everything, right? So I was like, oh, that's possible, because I don't know anybody who wants to make stuff. So I wanted to make stuff already, right? I was a creative sort of youth, but I didn't know it was possible to do it. I just saw this list of people. I'm like, I can never, how do you even, like, how does a phone work at that point, right? So when I saw that, I'm like, hell, I'll do that, So I just started to consume everything I could. Like, pick apart every game and just, like, started to, like, hack memory and try to figure out, like, if I pull this thing, what happens over here? And just learn everything. So that's basically it for me.
Well, for me, I was drawing a lot in the school, and I always wanted my drawings
one at a time, right? I haven't seen that in a long time with real-time graphics, but it was like I would analyze every single line that would come up on my little screen, and that was nirvana for me. And I knew that whether it was games or film and television, I knew I wanted to be in CG, and I wanted to create realistic worlds, and I wanted to, program things, and that was kind of my origin.
All right, Jake?
I had not ever thought that I would be in games, although I, in the back of my mind, maybe thought it would be cool, but I was a sort of hobbyist writer about video games online for years and years and years, and I ended up meeting the people at Telltale Games right when they were starting the company. They then needed a forum moderator and community manager, and I applied for that job, but I put a couple websites I had made into a portfolio along with my interview, so I ended up sort of getting also put into making websites, which then I realized I could sort of worm into doing user interface art elements, which then ended up meaning that I was in game design meetings with game designers, and then I ended up, because Telltale ships monthly episodes, it's very easy to end up getting on a very small chunk of a game there, and that slowly sort of worked my way up. But the reason that I was interested in being at a game studio at all, even if I wasn't sure that people would ever actually let me make games, is I like that game teams are these multidisciplinary, collaborative groups, and I mean, it's now teams sort of split apart and reform. The thing that was appealing to me at the time, people who did all sorts of things different than you, and you'd be
believe in your idea, and you have the guts to tackle it, and you have the skills to do it. You'll find probably people that like it, and then you start small, and this guy tells the next one, and it's like a snowball. And yeah, you need to have like faith also.
Yeah, just like what's a moment in your game, like a visual moment that crystallizes what it feels like, or what's 3 or 4 beats of gameplay that you noticed that is a story that you could tell a friend that makes them excited and makes them think about all the rest of the systems that you haven't even built yet. Like you don't have to make those up from nothing first, but even just as you're playing early versions of your game, like keep in your mind, are those moments appearing? And if so, like just write them down somewhere so that if you eventually do a trailer, you're like, oh fuck, it's ours. God, jeez, I'm the worst. Jesus. The worst thing is to get your game all the way done and then be like, how do I sell it to someone?
And I think just piggybacking on what they said, it's everybody's case is different, right? And no one model works for all of us, but for us, it's very much like cutting through the noise. There's so much noise out there, and so I look at a product like ours in particular, and I say, What's special about it, right? Why this? Why would people want to buy this product, right? And I just, in simple sound bites, like in a marketing 101, I just try and list out those points and I go, well, this feature is meaningful. This adds impact. And ultimately, part of the thought process as we go into it. But for, grassroots marketing, a lot of what Oddworld does is, we are non-traditional in a large AAA studio.
Do a big, great job in marketing, and they know all the ins and outs of that. I'm not promoting everybody should get to
hire a marketing guy.
Well, hire a marketing guy because that'd be crazy, right? But at the same time, you gotta, like you were touching, you gotta think about how to market your game, incorporate it into the design. My big problem is I do a lot of psychology-based game design, right? So I want to touch certain buttons in your head, basically, to make you feel things or, behave in a certain fashion. So when that works, it's good and fine. But how do I get people to play it? So I got to sort of wrap that sort of base mechanic in a shell that sort of is marketable, you could say, which sounds super cold, but there's of course on top of that a lot of aesthetics and cool stuff you want to do and so forth. But marketing is definitely a big part of success.
I have one piece of boring advice that doesn't apply, or that applies to anything that you're trying to market, which is no one actually knows what you're making and no one knows what your game or whatever it is. And again, it feels gross, but if you're on Twitter, tweet about it all the time. Put images up all the time. Just spam the heck out of people, because especially on social media, that stuff is filtered against you to have it actually go out to places, and people only check every few minutes anyway. So because Facebook even gives you the metrics if you try to if you put a post up, it says this reached 1% of the possible audience, and then they're pay more, and they just post all the time, just put stuff all the time. People who are interested are going to eat it up to 4,000 things that you're putting on the internet. So just never shut up.
And, right? If you're a large AAA developer,
this, we're going to do this push because there's this is where you're at. You don't know, So
it's very easy to spend a lot of money marketing.
And with no results.
Yeah. All right, we got time
does
for
anyone have
maybe
a question
one
to
more.
save us from the marketing conversation?
All right, one more.
I can talk for everybody, but we're crazy.
Yeah.
One key point. But it's it's passion. It's believing, plan everything, and try to figure out beforehand. And then experience, of course. Playing other games and cutting them to pieces, and then dissect every mechanic.
So you sort of go through them and experience them once, and so much of the experience is kind of based on the all singing, all dancing experience working. So at least for the specifics of our team, it ended up being a lot more about the trust that the team themselves had and their own gut check, and then everyone sort of sitting down and saying, okay, before we can even assess whether or not this is working, we're going to need to take these leaps that are way longer than we're comfortable with to even just get anything done, and then figure out how many of those do we get before we've run out of time. How many bites at the apple do we get? And if it's we aren't going to get enough, then even that early we just go, okay, well, this thing that we've decided is a big risk. What if we don't make it? Can we reimagine the game without that? And I mean, that's almost I'm sure that's a process that everyone has, but just with the team sizes as small as they are, and our content and our game being so one-off content based before it's even accessible, our game loop we figured out, like I said, when we had the ultimate first-person shooter thing in the lines from the room. We're like, great, you can walk up and say something about it. Okay, great, now build an entire world and write an entire screenplay. So it ended up being a lot about trust and a lot of mentally talking through everything and then hoping that we were right, but giving ourselves just enough room to be wrong, maybe one time or 1.5 times. And that number's accurate. We rewrote the entire final third of the game after we had our first big playtest of the entire thing. Real. But I don't know. I think it's different if your game is really like mechanical